Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. Inspired by one of my students, I've decided to put together a little chord melody arrangement of that beautiful Vince Guaraldi tune, Christmas Time Is Here. As with all of my chord melodies or arrangements, I like to find different pathways through the changes. So I'll give you a few options as we go, and it'll be up to you which ones you want to go for. Some are going to be harder than others. For the lesson materials, I'm going to transcribe exactly what I played in the opening performance, so you'll have all of those details in writing, nice and neat in tab and notation. Okay, so let's jump straight into it. We're going to do this in the original key of F, and the first chord change we need is F major 7 to E flat 9 sharp 11. So as a chord progression that might look something like this. In a 3/4 time. Now of course we have to factor in the melody on top of these things. The melody being this. So the voicings I've gone for would be F major 7, second inversion on the top 4 strings. And then what I like to do here is get my pinky finger to 13 on the B string for that C melody note, and then I form this bar with the first finger from the A string down at the 12th fret. So we're getting this rootless F major 6/9 voicing. And then we're going to move down to this for the first option. I like this voicing, rootless E flat 9 sharp 11. The way I like to see it is we know that we can play this G minor 7 flat 5 type of voicing to get a rootless E flat 9th, something we've covered a lot in my lessons. Now all we need to do is figure out how to factor that sharp 11 in, the melody note. So of course sharp 11 is the same as a flat 5 or a sharp 4 depending on the context. So if you know where your 5 is, in this case the B string, flatten it down and there you go, a really tasty rootless voicing for an E flat 9 sharp 11. On the top 4 strings that would look like this, and that's an option we might revisit later on. So my technique here, I'm doing that thing that you've seen me do many times where I bar the knuckle of my second finger down to get the 10th fret on the G and B strings. So far. Very pretty. We could then of course just repeat the same thing again if we like, but the second time I chose to bring the bass note in on the E flat 9 sharp 11. So that would be 11th fret of the low E string, that's your root, skip the A string, here's your flat 7, and then again first finger barring to get the 9 and the sharp 11. So let's just explore a couple of the other options that I might have used throughout the performance. Instead of doing it here, with that 6/9 voicing, we can move that voicing to the top 4 strings. It's the same thing of course, F6/9. And then we could grab the 10th fret of the B string with the pinky, and then slide down and form that voicing we spoke about a moment ago. Again, the same as the one we had here, but the top 4 strings. This gives us the luxury of adding not only the root in the bass with the thumb, but the 5th under that. One of those massive 1950s Barney Kessel chords. Also gives you the chance to slide down into that voicing, very neat. Another option that I didn't use on the performance, but I really like the sound of, would be to do something like this. Minimal, but down in the low end it adds a real warmth. You might even put a bit of counterpoint in there. Various options, all very pretty. Okay, so the next bit of the progression requires a B minor 7 flat 5. The tricky thing is the melody is A, so we need to have that on top. So this is where it's really good to know your various enharmonic equivalents. You know, the fact that a B minor 7 flat 5 is the same thing as a D minor 6 and all of its inversions, okay? So your inversions for D minor 6 are going to be the same inversions for B minor 7 flat 5. As Barry Harris would say, a B minor 7 flat 5 is simply a D minor with the 6th in the bass. And that's how we're going to think of it here. Thumb, again, serving a good purpose there to grab the bass note. And then the next chord is a B flat minor 7, where the melody pops up again on the flattened 5th, and then a quick jump to A minor 7. I'm going for this very full bar chord option. And then again, move chromatically, pick out the melody, move chromatically again to the G minor 7, and then you've got a C9 sus, or a B flat over C, however you want to look at it, which this is a great option, very common one that you'll have seen in lots of my lessons. People Get Ready featured it quite a bit. And then resolving to F major 9, courtesy of a second inversion A minor 7. So let me just break that down for a moment. So F major 9, it's a big sounding chord, right? This would be a good option, like an F major 7 with the 9 added on top. But it's a bit of a handful. I do use that at some point later on in the piece. You've also got this very typical option off the A string, but I quite like the sound of this, especially for that first one. Having that E note in the bass kind of gives it a little bit of a more dreamlike quality. And this, again, is where knowledge is going to be your best friend. So when you're looking for F major 9th voicings, you can be thinking about the 3rd chord of the key, minor 7th. So in the key of F, your 3rd chord is A minor 7. Now think about all of those A minor 7 voicings that you could possibly find on all of your string sets. You know, you want to be exploring these things and see them all as not only A minor 7, but F major 9. This is where I like to just think in chord categories. You know, the true function of a chord in any key, your tonic chords are your 1, your 3, and your 6. I like to think of them as basically interchangeable. You know, if you take your 3, A minor 7 in this case, and you put the root of the 1 in the bass, F, what do you get? You get F major 9. So if you're ever sat there racking your brains for, oh my god, I don't know enough voicings for F major 9, think about the 3rd chord of the key and use that as your F major 9. You can really bring some interesting texture into your playing by doing that, because of course those A minor 7 voicings are rootless in terms of F major. There's no F in those. Of course you can add it in somewhere like we did here, but it's really nice just to have it rootless. You know, it's a very trendy thing in the world of jazz, rootless voicings. And by the same token, if you're looking for lots of voicings for your major 6th, just think of your relative minor chord. So if I'm looking for F6, I'm going to think of the 6th chord of the key, D minor. Any D minor 7 voicing could be seen as an F major 6 voicing. Pretty useful. Okay, so with that said, let's go over some of those other options on that descending line. So B minor 7 flat 5 to B flat minor 7 with a flat 5, A minor 7, A flat minor 7, G minor 7, B flat over C, F major 9, courtesy of this A minor 7 voicing. But now another really nice option that's probably slightly easier to play, instead of going for B minor 7 flat 5, again think of what that chord is the same as. We said D minor 6, and grab this voicing. Of course it means your bass note is different, but it's essentially an inversion, right? It's like a first inversion, B minor 7 flat 5. And then move this 3-note voicing portion of the chord down a semitone, and then you're back to where we were before. A minor 7, G minor 7. Now if you wanted to, instead of playing this voicing here, you've got a couple of options. You could go for the easiest option, just simply this, you know, barring the A string at the 3rd fret, A string, D string, G string, and then little finger playing that 6th fret of the B string. And then F major 9, whether it's this, or this. You've got some great options. As long as you're playing an F major 9 with the G on the top, that will serve the purpose of the melody, and away we go. That's a nice voicing as well. For that B flat over C, it's the same voicing as this, it's just on the next string set. A B flat major triad on top with C in the bass. Okay, does that cover that part? Oh, there's one other option that I did on the last A section on that performance in the opening there, and I went for the B minor 7 flat 5. This is a beautiful voicing. The tricky thing is then we have to grab the flat 5 back here. And then you could go to this, what looks like an F6. But again, if you think of it as a B minor 7 flat 5, it makes sense, right? And then same as before for the rest of it. Okay, so any combination of those ideas will serve you well for the 3 A sections in this piece. Now let's move on to the B section. We need a D flat major 7th, or at least a D flat major chord with the 7 in the melody, and then a G flat 9 sharp 11. So very similar to the sequence earlier in terms of the 2 chord types. What I went with here was this. I went one of my favourite voicings. This is a D flat major 6-9 with the major 7 included on top. Takes a bit of getting used to planting that thing, but you get very comfortable with it after a while. Second finger on the root, first finger barring the entire 8th fret from the A string down, and then third finger at 9 on the B string. And then the melody is there for the taking, right? And then I went for one of my favourite chord voicings. I've featured this in some other videos. It's a bit of a tricky one, but again, once you get that in the muscle memory, it's actually quite easy to just plonk it down. So this is a G flat 9 sharp 11. The way I'm seeing it is that I'm thinking G flat is here. I'm building the chord from the flat 7, so it's a third inversion type of chord. Second finger barring the 8th fret on strings D and G, but not barring with the finger flat. Make sure you're just barring from the knuckle, because when you add the pinky to 9 on the B, you then need to add the third finger to 8 on the top string. So the intervals there, you've got the flat 7, the 3rd, the 6th or the 13th we can call that, the 9, and then the sharp 11 or the flat 5. Neat little voicing. Second time I went for this. Bit more of an obvious choice this time for the G flat 9 sharp 11. And again, it's only because I like to vary things. More so for the purposes of giving you plenty to sink your teeth into as students of mine. That's the reason I go for many options that you can explore. But really you could just pick one option, whichever one you're most comfortable with or the one you like the sound of best, and stick with that and just repeat it. But that voicing I went for the second time is the second finger on the root, G flat, skip the D string, flat 7, 9, sharp 11. Now the next bit is kind of a handful. We go A minor 7 with a full bar chord again, and the melody on top, C, A, and then we go for this kind of tritone thing. E flat 9 with a 13 on top, so E flat 13. And then D7, where we then move down to the melody on the A string, and then flatten the 9 in the D7 chord. D7 to D7 flat 9. And this is just like a diminished chord on the top 4 strings. But you'd be visualizing the root on the 5th fret of the A string. We don't have to play it though. And then the B flat, G minor 7 with the same trick as we used on the A minor 7. And then again the tritone kind of thing. But the melody this time is just 1 fret above the chord shape. So instead of a 13, it's a flat 13 or a sharp 5. And then keep that note on top and move the rest of the chord down a semitone for a C9 with the 13 on top. So C13. And also again, something I've mentioned in a lot of my videos, my second finger is barring both of the bass strings at the 3rd fret. So it's actually all 6 strings. Again, that's something that takes a lot of practice. I couldn't do that for a long time. It took a lot of chipping away. So it's a C13 over G, I guess. And then we're back to the usual for one final A section. There was another option I used, wasn't there? I went... It's quite a dissonant choice. This is something I picked up from listening to Bill Frisell and Julian Lage. A really kind of cool dissonant voicing, like a little cluster chord you could use when you need a dominant chord with a sharp 11 or a flattened 5th in it. In this case, frets 10, 6, 10, strings D, G and B. The root would be here. So again, this would be like a 13, a flat 7, a and a sharp 11. Much like that chord we used earlier, that fiddly shape, but for the E flat, it would look like this. Combines elements of dominant chord, you know, you got the third and the flat 7, but the two sort of spicy extensions being the 13 and the sharp 11. This just strips away the major third. Interesting sound. And then we're back to the usual. And then you just put this little coda on the ending. And then a third and final time. So, not only a beautiful tune to learn, but a good one for working out on some of your chord voicings. And as I say, as far as the lesson materials are concerned, I'm going to type up exactly how I played it in the intro. Okay guys, so thanks so much for your ongoing support, especially through what's been quite a tough couple of months for me. Your kind words have meant the world to me, and thankfully I'm starting to feel myself pick things up a little bit and get back to some sense of normalcy. Personally, I'm really excited about the future of this channel, and I can't wait to start filming on a more regular schedule again and get things back on track. I've got so many ideas, and I'm just so excited to share them with you all. So keep up the practice and your dedication to the instrument, because it's surely paying off, and I'm really proud of all of you, and I'll see you in the new year. Okay, take care.